Hey Sandy, so how are you?
Hi, Brett. I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you. Yeah, not bad at all. So here we are for another DeliverPoint session, and we're
Yep.
going to live up to our promise and show the enterprise version this week.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it sounds good.
Cool. So you still in the same place? So
I
I
am,
can see
yes,
from
yes, with
the
my
painting.
abstract art behind me. Yeah, I keep having to tell people. They say, "Oh, that's a really nice painting." And yeah, it just came with the Airbnb.
Yeah, that's really
But
nice.
yeah, it is nice to have that background. And I see you've got new artwork on your wall.
Yeah, well, not new, but had a little bit of a shift around. So
Mm.
we've got a series of these pictures from a photo shoot of the rally car that we
Oh,
sponsored. Yeah,
nice.
so this is the world's first 100% electric rally car, which was actually professionally driven by a good friend of ours and a
Mhm.
customer as well.
Uh-huh.
So it's Elia Gold, who is a SharePoint consultant
Right.
and rally driver. so, so yeah,
Yeah, I wish I could do that in my spare time.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So this is not the only car that he has.
Mhm.
He's got a series of Mitsubishi Evos and things like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, he's very keen on electric vehicles and
Mhm.
things like this.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the first rally car that was
Very,
electric. So
very
the
cool.
Lightning Tools sponsored it. As you can see, we've got Lightning Tools plastered all over
Uh-huh.
it.
And if any of our viewers had been at Collab Summit several years ago, I forget now which year that was, and you guys brought the car down to the Collab Summit and people could get in it and not drive it, but it was there for display, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we put it on a trailer and and drove it maybe 600 miles or
Mm.
something like that to the event. So yeah, it was fantastic. That was we were hoping that was actually going to be on our booth,
Uh-huh.
but there was all sorts of red tape. Um,
Mm.
Including, what we overcame the hurdle about, would it leak oil, and we said no because it's electric, and things like that. But yeah, still, it was a no-go. So
Mm.
it was just outside the main door of
Mm.
the conference venue.
Mm. Mm.
So yeah, people were able to sit in it
Mm.
and so on. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really, really cool vehicle.
Have you had you taken a ride in it? I have
Mm,
not, but I'm
yes.
sure I mean I know how zippy and how much pull an electric vehicle has. I can even only imagine on a rally course.
Yeah. So I was a passenger with Elia driving,
Mm.
and yeah, I managed to get myself in the bucket seat, which was the first accomplishment. Um, but yeah, the straps just about went around me, so I wasn't going to move anywhere. But yeah, this is in Northwest Wales. There's a beautiful racetrack actually overlooking the Irish Sea, and everything is
Mm.
really stunning.
Mm.
And yeah, we got thrown around a little bit. We went over a jump and all sorts of things. So
Jeez.
yeah, and
Wow.
and you're right. I mean, it's the ideal mix for a rally car because real low center of gravity. The acceleration is just crazy on those things and so on. But it's just weird that it doesn't make a noise apart from a whirring sound. Yeah, it's cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
Absolutely. So anyway, we weren't
Yeah.
here to talk about that,
Right.
but we were
Yeah.
gonna well, I guess share my screen and we can talk
Right.
about the enterprise version of DeliverPoint.
Yep. Sure. Sounds good. And this is designed for, as the name implies, for very large organizations who are using SharePoint Online. So our DeliverPoint server version is used currently by a lot of very large enterprises who have tons of servers and yeah, hundreds of thousands of users and so on. But it's been a little bit of more of a challenge to do that in SharePoint Online because of everything being browser based.
Yeah, exactly. So the on-premises version that we have, you're absolutely right. We've got very large automotive customers. We've got very large government organizations and so on. One of the government organizations claims to have the biggest Active Directory in the world, um, and that obviously means that there's a lot of content as well from all these users generating that content.
Mm.
And the way that the DeliverPoint on-premises version would work was with an SQL database, and that SQL database was populated by some timer jobs. So one of those timer jobs would crawl the Active Directory, another timer job would crawl all of the permissions that people would have, and so on. So when you were running a report, or a large scale report, it was actually able to just simply call a stored procedure against the database to be able to produce that report, as opposed to creating a real-time report by churning through the object model using the server-side object model as it would do in on-prem. There were still some dynamic reports for smaller scopes. If you ran a discover permissions on a single site, it's going to be real-time and so on. But you also had the benefit of running unique permissions report against the whole farm and things like that. You could absolutely do, because that information was cached. So the challenge was with SharePoint Online was that we wanted to deliver something that was easy to install, easy to set up, and so on. And that's what we've successfully delivered with DeliverPoint, the SharePoint framework package. So you can add that into the app catalog, and there's no complex setup at all. It's just assign it a few API permissions, which gives it the ability to enumerate the AD security groups and so on that you've got in your Azure Active Directory, and include those inside your report, and it's all good. So it's very simple to use, very simple to set up, and so on. But there are still, as you mentioned, some very large organizations now, and over the last few years, moving to Microsoft 365 and adopting the cloud, and they're wanting that same sort of expectation of being able to produce reports across multiple site collections, when inside those site collections there's perhaps thousands of sites and hundreds of thousands, or if not millions, of documents to report on. And not all of them are going to have unique permissions, of course. Some of them are going to inherit permissions and things like that, but whatever you do, you're going to have a large report. And some of them actually even have 5,000, 10,000 users that are granted permissions to each of these objects. So the report is just on a huge scale. And one of the challenges is when they are that large, is actually with the SharePoint framework. I'll show you sort of standard DeliverPoint first of all. But if I was selecting multiple site collections or something like that in here, and went down to the standard reports. So if I did a Discover Permissions Advanced, for example, selected several options to include everything that has broken permission inheritance, and to include sharing links and things like that, and maybe also provide a pre-filter so I get the information that I want, you'll notice here that because this is real time, that it has to churn through these objects, and there's only hundreds of objects here. There's not tens of thousands or millions of objects. And as it says here on the orange banner, if you close that, if you decide to go off for lunch or go home for the day, you're going to interrupt your report. So yeah, that provides me with everything I wanted to see, but I'd have to be patient in order to be able to get it. And it does save you still a tremendous amount of time than if you were trying to do that manually. I mean, you'd have to literally go through and navigate to each individual document or each individual folder. Whereas if you look at this, we've got 6 pages of documents that have broken permission inheritance and so on. Just trying to determine which ones have broken permission inheritance in the first place is going to be time consuming, let alone who's got permissions to them. So still advantageous, but we don't want people sitting there for a week with the browser open waiting for a report of millions of documents to be produced. So with the enterprise version, you'll notice that we've now got this schedule button, and with that schedule button, we can actually go through and see some scheduled reports, and you can see that there's a few large reports actually pending now that were triggered, but one of them here has also completed. And when you go through to schedule these, you can basically choose your scopes. That can be multiple site collections of large content, and then simply go through and discover the permissions. So that will produce the permission report, and we can specify a library where we want to store that report. So you can see there's a number of those reports being executed here. So I'm just going to go through and copy the link address for that report. So as we go back into DeliverPoint and we select a site collection here, and under discover permissions, I'm going to go through and paste that in so we get the URL as we want it.
Oh, so
And
that's to the library where you want the report to end up.
yeah, and that doesn't have to be the same site. That could be
Mm.
any site that I have permissions to. So yeah, you could have these stored centrally, or per site collection for the site collection admin to be able to review and that type of thing. And in here, we've got a drop down of the frequency for this report. So what's useful is you could actually have this generate for a site collection admin every 3 months or every month, whatever they require as part of
Nice.
an auditing process. So yeah, one of the options is to do it now, but also if I wanted to say monthly, I could specify what day of the month I want that to execute on, what is the start time as well. For that, so it could be 4 in the morning or something like this, or if I just wanted to generate once at that time, I could do that as well. So yeah, that would go through in schedule. So I just hit the schedule button. You can see that that's scheduled it, and we'd be able to access that by looking into the scheduled reports here, so we can see that that is scheduled to run at that specific time. And yeah, once it's done, you get the little green check. So we know that that's generated and linked to open up the document. So I've got one of those actually already open. So if we take a look at that, this report here is reporting against multiple sites, as you can see. We've also got lists, and there's also a bunch of items in here too. And there's a big mixture of different people with different permissions and so on. So some of them have full control, some have edit permissions and things like that. So once you get this report, of course, it's going to be extremely large against that many objects. So what you can do is go through and do a Control Shift End, which is nice, and format that as a table in here. So you can choose one of the styles if you wish. I'll of course go with the Lightning Tools blue one. There we go. And so now we can go to the very top here, and we can start to filter our report to see the information that we want. So depending on what you want to do, it might be that you want to see everybody that happens to have full control to any of the objects. So
That's
in
a
here,
pretty common request.
yeah, absolutely. So this will show you all of the values, or all of the permissions assigned. So some of these have full control and edit, which I may or may not want to include. This is implicitly granted, so that would include things like site collection admins. They've not actually been given full control explicitly to the site, and we could get rid of edit and contribute and so on in there. And now we've just got a list of everybody that's got full control, which is obviously valuable. And we can contact these people. We've got their email address and things like that. Now, also over to the left, you'll see that of these objects that these people have full control to, not all of them actually have unique permissions. So that's a further filter that I might want to apply here to just have a look at those objects that do have unique permissions. And we've got file names or folder names and things like that with the URL to them. So we can go and investigate what they are, have a look if this is how people should be permissioned on those objects, and so on. And of course, you could go through and change that filter if you wanted to include anything else that you wanted to. So in here, one of the other common uses is to filter on a particular person. So we do have their email address, but we've also got their friendly name and their username in here. So if we had somebody that maybe moving on or something, changing roles inside their organization, we could go through and focus in on that user, and once more, see where they're permissioned in these site collections, and also see how they're permissioned as well. So sometimes it may be you can see here they're permissioned through a sharing link or through limited access. It may be through an Active Directory Azure or Azure Active Directory security group or a SharePoint group, and so on. So you've got all of that information to hand too. So once you know your way around the Excel document, it's really useful to see the information that you need to see, and can make sure that your permissions are in line with how they need to be for your department or site collection that you're managing.
Great.
Yeah, so that's the like I said, the enterprise version that we provide. And we're going to be adding a lot more reports to it as well. Currently, it's just the Discover permissions, but standard DeliverPoint actually also has some other reports as well, things like sharing links and unique objects, things like that. We may also take into account the report templates that we introduced a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, that could also be useful. So you could run the same report as a scheduled report as well. Now, the architecture of that is not as straightforward. So as you can see, it's actually storing the reports not in a SQL database like our on-premises version, but it's actually creating a scheduled report and storing that report itself in a document library once it's been generated. But there is a database, and that stores the configuration and options, because we've then got Azure functions that will be or basically replace our timer jobs that we have in on-prem. They're the things that we're able to schedule, and yeah, we can go through and gather this information and generate the report so that people can be notified about those and open those reports.
Right. Yeah, and that's what sets the, kind of runs all the time and triggers then whenever if you've set it to run monthly, then that'll trigger on that date and time that you selected each month based on the configuration that's in the DeliverPoint database. Yep.
Exactly. And also I want to point out, because I think it's really important as well, is this is not an Azure function or a database that is running on our server. So you don't need to be concerned about us processing your permission reports or storing any of your data or anything like that. This is all still inside of your tenant. So just like DeliverPoint, it's just reporting on who's got permissions inside your tenant. This is doing exactly the same thing. There's nothing coming out of your tenant here.
Yep. Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. So that's the enterprise version of DeliverPoint for Microsoft 365. And so I guess we've been talking about DeliverPoint for a few weeks now. We do have coming up some other releases, and with Social Squared next month, which is the discussion board tool. There's actually quite a lot of features to be talking about in that one that we've been working on. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about some of that stuff.
Great. Yeah, those are always good ones to show too.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Sandy. Well,
Sounds
thanks again for another Lightning Tools chat.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess if you're watching this and you want to see a bit more about DeliverPoint, just in a couple of days' time, we've got the webinar. So you can hop over to lightningtools.com and sign up for the webinar.
Yep. Yeah, because then you'll be showing this and then all of the standard features of DeliverPoint as well that are in our standard release.
Exactly.
And the new, some of the new features like the report template, which is really a great new feature, I think. And I was playing around a little bit with the way that you can actually put that in a link in the URL. So like you can create a report. I don't think we really talked about this when we talked about the report templates a couple weeks ago, but you can configure a template and then make that into a URL. So you could have like a quick link on your home page or something like that that says, discover the permissions for this hub site or for all the whole hub or something. And that's what it does when you click the button.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, very, very cool. So yeah, I'm excited to show you that on Thursday.
Nice. All right.
Yeah,
I will see you
enjoy
then.
the rest of your sunny day, and see you
Thanks.
soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Sandy.